Honorable guests, respected panelists, vibrant performers, and our wonderful audience from every corner of the globe, welcome to the final day of the Listener Nagaland, a festival of orality. Today, we stand on the precipice of a new chapter in the story of Nagaland's cultural heritage. Over the past 2 days, we've witnessed the magic of our oral traditions, and now it's time to consider how we carry this torch into the future. The Sangeet Natak Academy and the Ministry of Culture, in collaboration with the Imasi Foundation and Intact Nagaland chapter, proudly presents the festival as a testament to the collective spirit of the Northeast. Our panel discussions today promise to enlighten, our performances to enthrall, and the collective energy to inspire. As we listen, learn, and engage, let us also ponder on our role in ensuring the continuity of these traditions. How do we, as custodians of culture, ensure its vibrancy in its modern age? To everyone present, both physically and virtually, your presence over these days have been a driving force behind this festival's success. Your questions, your applause, and your keen interest, it's what makes the Listener Festival truly special. As we embark on the final leg of this festival, let's make it count. Let's create memories, spark conversations, and ensure that the echoes of our stories continue to resonate long after the curtains fall. Thank you, and here's to a magnificent day ahead. Welcome to the Listener Nagaland. We embark on another enlightening session today, delving into the intricate web of intergenerational knowledge transmission. We're honored to have with us the eminent Professor Dr. Umarani Papaswamy, Deputy Director of the Central Institute of Indian Languages in Mysore. Her deep expertise in the field promises to illuminate this discussion. Joining her as esteemed discussants are Dr. Nisa Tungoy from the Northeast Christian University and Dr. Dharam Singh Taran, an independent researcher and founder of the Center for Karbi Studies. Get ready for a profound exploration of how knowledge flows through generation, connecting past, present, and future. Let us warmly welcome our expert for this engaging conversation with a round of applause.
Of the Listener Nagaland. As most of you know, this is my first visit in Nagaland, but I always feel I have known this place and the people all along, maybe due to my exposure to Shillong. And today we have an interesting topic to be deliberated upon. This session is titled as Intergenerational Knowledge Transmission. And of course we have three of us here. I will take 40 minutes to do my presentation, which will be followed by discussions and kind of a Q&A session by my colleagues here. So let's start. Since we have mixed crowd here and also I see some students, I just wanted to touch upon some fundamentals before I jump into my own topic. Ever since UNESCO came out with its Atlas on Endangered Languages, people have been talking about language endangerment or language death, language extinction. And we hear many words like dying languages, endangered languages, etc. As of today, we have 7,1111 plus languages that are living in the world. Many scholars predict that by the end of 21st century, we will be left with less than 700 languages. That means more than 90% of the world's living languages will face extinction. And also, out of the 96% of the world's languages, many of these languages, 96% of them are spoken only by a tiny bit of the world's population. Just 4% of the people, and more than 1,500 languages have less than 1,000 speakers. And when it comes to Northeast India, you know that there are many languages which have just a single digit number of speakers. For example, Ruga, spoken in Garo Hills, are left with 2.5 speakers. You may ask me, what is this half? There are 3 people who can speak the language. 2 of them belong to 70 plus age group, one male and a female, and the second female, who is in her mid-50s, can speak the language, but unfortunately she has some hearing disability, so it's very difficult to communicate with her and connect with her to elicit data. So what most of the times we do narratives, but other things, whatever we want to do with her is less. But there is a village, Rukapara, which has completely shifted to the dominant language, Garo. So there are many languages like that in Nagaland too. Let us see what we can do with this. And nowadays people are not comfortable to talk about languages as dying languages. Instead of that term, people like the University of Hawaii are very comfortable by using the term dormant languages, sleeping languages. Let's wake them up. So that's the job of people who are interested in language revitalization. Linguists like me and many others around the world have been studying about languages, especially the ones that are endangered, for a long time. UNESCO's transdisciplinary role in education, natural sciences, many other sciences, social sciences, culture, anthropology, communication, and information, enables it to assist in the preservation of traditional knowledge. It has been advocating the safeguarding of endangered languages for many decades. UNESCO is in fact well equipped to support the revitalization, safeguarding, and protection of traditional knowledge, mainly because of its diverse areas of expertise. As some of you know that we are celebrating the International Decade of Indigenous Languages, which began in 2022. It's for 10 years. The whole idea is to draw global attention onto the critical situation of the many indigenous languages and cultures, of course, to mobilize the stakeholders and resources for preservation, protection, and promotion of these languages. And I'm very happy the Listener Festival also started in 2022. It kick-started, but in 2023 we are doing the second festival, so we are also contributing to the International Decade in one sense. Going back to the 2003 criteria developed by the UNESCO for the Atlas project was very popular. They came out with 2 atlases. One was in 2009, and as some of you know, Khasi was listed as endangered in the 2009 atlas. And Tharau, spoken in Manipur, we have Professor Yashwanta here, that was also listed as extinct. But you know very well, Tharau, Aimol, Khasi, their status is different. So some of us from Northeastern Hill University and probably from Manipur and other places, they communicated with the UNESCO, and also many other changes were made in the 2010 Atlas. According to that, we know that we have 197 languages from India that are endangered. And yesterday already, when Banwang spoke about it, he said we have more 64 languages that are endangered in the Northeast, and out of that, 33 of them are present in Nagaland according to him. And so you have a large number of languages that need our immediate attention here. That's why we are thinking what to do. And also, why am I saying this to you? What is my purpose? UNESCO used 9 factors or 9 criteria to look into the vitality of languages. And one of them was lack of intergenerational knowledge transmission. So that was one of the factors the UNESCO had used to count or to see how many languages are getting endangered or almost getting wiped out from this world. So what is this intergenerational knowledge transmission? That's the whole thing we are going to look into today. Going back to my previous slide here, the UNESCO in 2010 listed 2,471 languages as endangered. The Ethnologue, which is one of the popular databases, keeps changing its numbers every year because every moment something is happening to a language somewhere, even when I am talking to you at this moment. In 2023, the Ethnologue listed 3,072 languages as endangered, whereas in 2022, last year, it was 3,045. In 2019, as you can see, 2,895. There is another group at the University of Hawaii who came out with a catalog of endangered languages in 2018, and they have identified 3,394 languages as endangered. The point to be noted here is the number keeps changing, but the fact is languages are dying fast than before. They are dying fast than before we even begin to think of finding a means to document them, means to record them, and means to connect with the people. There is indeed a threat to indigenous knowledge systems, because when we talk about languages, we know that they are packed with wisdom, packed with knowledge. This indigenous knowledge should be deciphered from the people and also passed on to the next generations. So a little bit about what do we mean by tribes of India when we talk about the tribes of India. As per the 2011 census, we know we have 550 recognized tribes by the Indian government, and we have the scheduled tribe or the ST population as 8.6%. Now, why the name scheduled tribes? I think most of you except Jilwan here might know this, so this is mainly for you. So why are we having this terminology? Under the Indian Constitution, we have a Schedule 5 where we have a list of languages that are recognized as tribes by the Constitution. So according to that list, we refer to the people as scheduled tribes. That's how we got the name, and this of course was initially used in British India itself for administrative purposes, but now it continues with different connotations. We do have 3 distinct tribal zones in India. One of them is of course Northeast India. We have at least 11% of the people or the tribes who belong to this region. Central and East India, that constitutes 85%, and Southern India only 3%. Though the number is less when it compares to the population, the number of languages is more when it comes to Northeast India. So there is no single method to find out the number, because still there are many confusions. What is a language and what's a dialect? Where do we draw a line when it comes to the varieties of mother tongues spoken in Northeast India. That's why Government of India, especially the Ministry of Home Affairs, prefers to use the terminology mother tongue when it does the census of India. Whatever you see there, the numbers are not for languages or dialects, but by mother tongues. Though we have 3 distinct zones in India, these are unique in many ways. As many of you might have observed, the tribes or the indigenous people of Northeast India are definitely economically and socially well placed than those from Central India or South India. And also, we know that this region speaks a lot of languages which are less documented, less explored, or sometimes we don't even have any documentation of it. And most of them are unwritten too. We also are aware of the situation here. Since we have been hearing a lot about Northeast India, I didn't want to put a map here. All of you are now familiar with the geographical location of Northeast India and its 7 sisters and the lone brother Sikkim. All these states together have a regional center which was set up in 1986 right here in Dimapur, and that's called as Northeast Cultural Zone. The Northeast states are the epicenter of diverse and unique cultures, many traditions, customs, societies and histories. So this is one important hub, you can say a cultural hub for the people from this linguistically diverse hotspot place which pulls each and every one of us here. That's how I got attracted from South India to work on languages of Northeast India. We have been talking about the tribes of Nagaland. I think most of the time people talk about 16 tribes, but the Government of India has recognized and listed 17 of them as the recognized tribes of Nagaland. This is from the government web page. You are familiar with all these languages. We have been listening to beautiful songs from many of these communities, and we have visited some of the villages also where they are spoken. Though there are 17 tribes of Nagaland, the number of languages are more. Each tribe in Nagaland has its own dialect. So again, the Minister of Donor in its website has listed that Nagaland has more than 60 different spoken dialects, and many of them have no script of their own. Nagamese is the lingua franca. This is an interesting pidgin which is an amalgamation of, they have used in the government website as a language, but I prefer to use the word pidgin. It's an amalgamation of Assamese mostly, a little bit of Bangla, and many local dialects from these major varieties of Nagaland. This is indeed the language of trade, especially in the local market, and almost everyone who are Naga can speak Nagamese. I think the Assamese also, some of them can speak Nagamese very well because I witnessed it with my friends here, especially like TANTHA. There are a lot of communities who are coming to us and asking us, can you help us to document something? Can you help us save our language? And also asking us, what do you mean by revitalizing a language or reclaiming a language? We will look into all these things. What is the impact of documentation on communities? Because in this international decade, my proposal is, in addition to documenting and describing languages or cultures, we need to give back to the communities, because if people are empowered, everything goes on well. So language empowerment, cultural empowerment will definitely lead to people empowerment. So what are we going to give back to them? That's the question we should be asking, and at the end of the decade, we should be saying this is what we have done and this is what the community has got from linguists or anthropologists or archaeologists or people working on pluralities. So, since we know that there are many languages and cultures that are vanishing, there is an urgent need to preserve language and the cultures, of course, because these are storehouses of knowledge resources. When we discuss about documentation, the communities have two types of attitudes. Positive attitude, also negative, because some of them ask, many of you come to us and then you write a book or you get a degree and go back, what do we get? So there is a negative attitude, but there are other people who are very keen and who wanted to come and help us do something for them and document as much as possible. So it's our job to do some kind of mobilization and try to change the attitude of the people of the region so that they understand how important it is to preserve their languages and cultures for the future generations. It's very, very important. For many people, reclamation efforts. Reclamation means the community comes to us and say that like they initiate the efforts. It's a community-led effort to preserve or document a language. So this, for many reclamation efforts, the existing linguistic resources are not enough because we know that there are many issues and challenges when it comes to documenting knowledge. We are talking about indigenous knowledge. Who are indigenous people? There is no single definition for this because what linguists come out with are not agreeable to anthropologists and so on and so forth. So the UNESCO has also come out with some definitions which I'm not going to speak here, but I would like to take one quote from them by first of all looking into the number of indigenous people across the world. There are 370 million indigenous people in the world belonging to 5,000 different groups in 90 countries worldwide. Indigenous people live in every region of the world. There is no single region where you will not find indigenous people. And who are the indigenous people? Not the speakers of Tamil like me, because many times people get confused with this. Whether people like Bengali speakers or Hindi speakers or Sanskrit or any other languages, are they indigenous people or who are the indigenous people? So the UNESCO has come out with a beautiful definition. Those people who are socio-economically disadvantaged and have different unique customs of their life which are different from the rest of the people around them. So interested folks can take a look at the definition. When we talk about indigenous people, and automatically the knowledge that they have is the indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge incorporates many aspects of life. Spirituality, which is connected with religion, of course. History, because this is where we come from or we know something. All of you here who belong to an indigenous language or a culture are aware of creation myths, and you might have heard about people talking about it. Cultural practices which we have been seeing in the last 3-4 days here. Social interactions which we do have lots and lots going on from morning till midnight. We do have it and we see that, experience it. Language, of course, that's one important aspect where a lot of indigenous wisdom is embedded. Healing. When we say healing, it is not just physical healing, it's also mental healing, mental well-being. How comfortable are you to be part of your culture? Because this kind of healing practices are healing therapy, cultural therapies are coming up so that people, the younger generations are healed to be proud of their own languages and cultures, because that's very, very important. And to give you just one definition of indigenous knowledge by the UNESCO, I'm just going to read it here because it's not my definition. Quote and quote, local and indigenous knowledge refers to the understandings, skills and philosophies developed by societies with long histories of interaction with their natural surroundings. For rural and indigenous peoples, local knowledge informs decision making about fundamental aspects of day-to-day life. So you can see that there are many factors involved here, even for decision making, who makes the decision, and especially in rural areas. That becomes very, very important. Now, coming to my topic where my discussants are also going to participate in it, we are now entering into a small domain called intergenerational knowledge transmission. And why is it important? Number one, you know very well, whatever we know about our own language, whosoever you are, whatever language you speak or culture you belong to, your knowledge is what you have got from your parents or your grandparents. So passing down wisdom is very, very important. Here, this intergenerational knowledge transmission refers to the process of passing down wisdom. It's basically a top-down approach from the ancestral line. Wisdom means not just the knowledge, of course, the skills, belief systems, cultural practices from one generation to the next within a community. We are talking first within a community, and I think already in Jilwan's talk he touched about interculturality, especially when he spoke on ICH. Oral tradition preservation is another important thing which needs our focus here, because this is one place where you can do your best to preserve the rich cultural and linguistic heritage which has been transmitted orally for many, many years. Like how we have our Ramayana and Mahabharata in our oral traditions, and we have it in print media and various variations, you know that, because you have Sarla Mahabharata in Orissa and we have Kambaramayana in Tamil Nadu. Different variations are there. So I'm sure the oral traditions of these plays also, which have been passed on from one generation to another, may have variations coming back to these whistling traditions of Meghalaya, because they are not documented. Suppose they are documented, and maybe we will find many variations in these tunes. What he said 723, maybe those are there, and what happens to them, and how you can capture the heritage and work on it. And also, like the Meghalaya group said, they want to document it for the sake of cultural continuity. They want that to be continued. They don't want it to be lost. That is why we are happy to see that intergenerational knowledge transmission needs to be focusing on cultural continuity, mainly to maintain their unique way of life and worldviews, because that's their worldview. Like they witnessed 3 times, so I'm not going to repeat the 4th time here. So sustainability is another aspect. This kind of knowledge transmission includes knowledge about sustainable practices, resource management, how do you go about making resource management, and ecological wisdom. This is very important for the survival of indigenous communities. And also, community cohesion is an important aspect because it fosters a strong sense of community cohesion and interdependence, as it relies on the active participation and community involvement in teaching and learning from one another. Because you know, everywhere, whenever we are documenting something, and when there is a community member with us, every moment we are learning something, and they also learn something from us from different perspective, and it opens different worldviews, and it's a fusion of worldviews, but we are focusing on the worldview of the indigenous communities. Who are the players in this field? The list can be endless, but to my mind, these 4 or 5 players are important: linguists, anthropologists, archaeologists, language activists, and of course ICH. Since ICH has been dealt with upon by many people, we are also having a workshop, and Jilwan also presented his talk mainly on ICH. I wanted to do a recap of one slide here for some people who are registered just today. ICH is manifested in 5 domains, and all these 5 domains are very, very important for us. The number one, what we are already doing here, oral traditions and expressions. Of course, language is an important vehicle for this intangible cultural heritage. Performing arts, that's why I was asking people, we are having songs, why can't we also have live music and dance shows, because performing arts are also ICH. Social practices, because we have been witnessing them, rituals, festive events, knowledge and practices concerning nature and the universe, traditional craftsmanship. This is very, very important. I think this is, suppose our listener festival is focusing on ICH, I believe we have to also incorporate the other elements in our festival. It's very important to not just document, but we can use it for revitalizing the cultures and of course languages. Here, I would like to take some terms from one of the Northeast scholars here, TK and TCE. TK is traditional knowledge and TCE is traditional cultural expressions. These are undocumented, unprotected and unregistered. Please remember, when we have different social practices and maybe some medicinal practices or many other practices, it's important to register them. We need to have a registry open in Northeast India. Maybe the intact Nagaland chapter or other intacts of Northeast India can take care of it, because it's very, very important for intellectual rights protection, which we do not have in Northeast India. So I already said about intact, so I'm skipping this. I'm happy that this listener is also organized by Intact Nagaland. Now coming to oral traditions, we know the importance of it, because this is there from the existence of the communities. What are the important oral genres people are aware of? It's mostly music and dance, songs and dance, especially in the relationship to rituals, because whatever we witness today, the songs are depicting some ritual practices. Suppose if we had dance shows also, they would also be depicting some parts of their rituals or cultures. Storytelling is one element which is very important in oral tradition, because for many, many years the Northeast region has a lot of stories, and some stories are published for written languages, but there are many unwritten languages where you do have a lot of stories which elders know. That has to be passed down to the next generation. This place is full of cultural diversity. Now what do we do as human beings to understand or to access the dominant culture? We need to pay attention to the world around us. The moment you play that, suppose you pay attention to what I am wearing here now, I am just stepping forward for a minute. So those of you who are familiar will know this is from Assam, because your eyes has seen it many times. The sari is from Assam. The necklace I am wearing is from our culture, the same with my earrings. How do you know it? You pay attention to the world around you. But you are paying attention only to the dominant cultures. How about the older, less visible world? Even here, there are many cultures which are invisible or less visible. In such cultures, we need to educate the children. The children need elders or teachers or some spiritual leaders or role models to develop a deep well of confidence, to see that we are culturally different but yet we are one. And how do you bring this unity in diversity among Northeast India? So this is something we need to pay attention to, and that's something which can be done by the elders in the family. So talking about elders, elders are no doubt the knowledge keepers. Here I would like to quote an African proverb. When an elder dies, a library burns down. So you know, it's an invisible library what every elder in a community has. That means we are saying that in our own houses, we have libraries which we never visit, because we are always tuned or glued to our little mobile phone in our pockets or our handbags or whatever. Please use your libraries. Please speak to your elders. The libraries are unused. You have to use them, you have to make them as your reference point. And the elders' duty also is their duty is, the crucial role is transmitting knowledge to this younger generation, because like Attila in her introduction said, elders are the custodians of wisdom. So this is very, very important, because as we grow, we gain experience. Every moment we gain experience. You are lucky if you have someone who is 100-year-old with you in your community, because their life experiences are an open book. Their wisdom will definitely be a valuable resource for the children to tap into. Teachers. When I say teacher, there are two connotations here. One are the formal teachers in the school education or college education, or our own parents, they are teachers. So teachers are guides. They have to go, the school teachers have to extend beyond formal education. They have to guide the children to understand their culture, language and the natural world, fostering a deep connection to their heritage. So it's important in schools to have some fun activities where you can allot some time, weekly 1 or 2 hours, to depict their culture or to teach them about their culture, and have some kind of workshops with children. Role models are important, because role models we always look upon, like Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhi, because every time we talk about something, oh, I want to change, I want to see the change in this world. I always tell my students, I quote Mahatma Gandhi here, you must be the change you want to see in the world. So you can see Gandhi as a role model, or Mother Teresa as a role model. Likewise, there must be some people in your own community who you look upon to as role models. So that is very, very important, and these people, they should allow children to see the value of their cultural heritage. That's why being a role model is not easy. So one has to really sacrifice a lot in order to serve as a role model for a community. Because these role models can instill a sense of pride and identity, ensuring the continuity of these indigenous traditions. The elders, of course, have another responsibility to boost the confidence through cultural roots. Because when you are young, if you are not nurtured in this, you will not be well grounded in your cultural root. That's why many times we see that, I don't want to quote anyone here, but I know a friend in Nehu Shillong who says like, I'm a Panar speaker, but my children cannot speak Panar. And that's because he did not pass it down to his children. So it's his duty. Though both parents are from Panar, they did not do it. So the children lost confidence through the cultural roots. So that is again the responsibility of the elders. And they also, knowing that history, language and traditions will definitely give children a strong foundation to navigate the modern world while preserving their heritage, because the confidence should be built right from the younger ages. I already spoke about this slide. This is about the difference between language reclamation and language revitalization. I already mentioned that reclamation is a larger effort by a community to claim its right to speak a language and to set associated goals in response to community needs and perspectives. Revitalization, language revitalization, on the other hand, is driven by the crisis of language endangerment. It can be taken up by many people, a group of people involving academicians, language enthusiasts, language activists and language lovers. And it has many connotations, socio-political, socio-cultural, and it also goes beyond whatever one can imagine. But both are very popular with the members of indigenous language communities, and this is going on with large efforts here. Alright, so when we talk about language revitalization, people always point to the Maori revitalization. I must mention here, certainly this was not the first revitalization program, but definitely one of the most visibly known internationally. That's why anyone who talks about revitalization, they give the example of Maori. The same with the Hebrew. Even before that, revitalization activities were done, but not on a large scale. Alright. Revitalization is seen as something about issues of self-respect and empowerment because you are reclaiming one's ethnic identity according to Gray. As many of you keep presenting slides, and most of us put this one: when identity is lost, everything is lost, because language is who I am, and that makes my identity. When I lose my language, I lose my culture, I basically lose everything. Now, what's the connection between language and culture and revitalization? Revitalization is not just about language, but also the culture of the community. Like I spoke about the Ruga community with only 2.5 speakers, many of the people who cannot speak Ruga in Rugapara said that we lost our language and are slowly losing our culture. Why is this happening? Because the elders did not pass on the essential wisdom of Ruga, culture, language, everything to the next generation. For more than 4 generations, it has not been done there. So they are slowly shifting to the dominant language and culture, which is Garo. That means we need to do so many workshops. One of them is cultural awareness, because it is undeniably critical for success in a language revitalization initiative. How can we do it? We have to work with the communities, identify their needs, and build a bridge between the language and cultural revitalization. I also propose culture therapies because it's very important. Like, it has been done by many, but based on some ideas I found in Spindler 1999, I propose that this could be something what Northeast India can take up, because it can be seen as a means to improve cultural awareness, mainly on healing and well-being through culturally grounded practices, rituals and traditions, because these will certainly serve as a bridge for intergenerational knowledge transmission. Because when we talk about IGK, as I want to acronymize it, this is about empowering youth and the future generations. Because if you feel low about your own culture, or if you feel low about your own language, you lose confidence to face the rest of the world. So it's very, very important people are introduced to this therapy so that mental well-being of our younger generations are taken care of. And also, this can be done only with community solidarity, because it involves a strong sense of unity, shared values and support among the community members. Community solidarity is in fact a cornerstone in preserving cultural heritage. We have to be together, only then we can achieve something. Winning the solidarity of community members is not an easy task. Also, another important term I wanted to introduce here is intergenerational solidarity. Why can't we think about it? Because this is the bond and mutual support between different age groups within a community, particularly between the younger and older generations. So if you do not have intergenerational solidarity, it's not possible to save a culture. Because in many cultures, even in the cultures of my language or my culture, we often sometimes see children telling mom or dad, oh, please keep quiet, you don't know this. The children tell the parents, you don't know this, they know better. So solidarity is not there, or the parents do not do that. They feel, okay, I want to send my child to, yes, of course, all parents want to send children to better schools, to see that they are well placed socio-economically. That is why in the UNESCO Chair of Language Policies and Multilingualism, Jilwan showed you a chart where one of the axes is about language and economy, multilingualism, language and economy. Because if you are not economically benefited, that is why some of them here, I don't want to take names, but sometimes people feel, what is the use of all these things? This is not the reality. People need better jobs, people need better things to do. But let's not forget, we can do it side by side. It's not easy. It's easy for me to say, but to put it into practice, it's difficult. but we definitely need community solidarity and intergenerational solidarity so that we can see that cultural revitalization can take place, which will help communities revive and strengthen mainly their cultural identity. One more important thing, because whenever we document languages and cultures, let us not forget every community has something called indigenous community control. What is this? It is the self-determination and autonomy of indigenous communities in making decisions about their cultural and natural resources. They are the custodians, they are the keepers of the language and the custodians of the culture or cultures. So this must be respected and sincerely clasped in the negotiations we make with them while documenting or describing a language or a culture. As Romain pointed out, the best way to save a language is to protect the community in which the language is spoken. That's very, very important. Community should also be protected, and thereby we will take care of the linguistic diverse policies and other planning activities, consultation, etc. Because we have to respect their linguistic rights and guarantee collaborations with them for protection and preservation. More to come is cultural sovereignty, because here indigenous community control empowers communities to maintain cultural sovereignty by determining how their traditional knowledge is managed, used and shared. How are they using it? How much they can share? How much is kept as a secret? What happens to this secret knowledge which only the community knows, for example, in performing some important rituals? What happens after that particular group of people pass away? Does that knowledge disappear? So unless they pass it down to the next generation, which many of them do, of course, in many important rituals, but not all rituals are being done in that way. So it's important to do that. But somebody has control over it, so that there can be two types of documentation. Documentation for the public use and documentation which can be only for community purposes, and that too if you have secret knowledge that can be documented and preserved only by that small group of people who are custodians of that precious knowledge of their cultures or their tribes. It's important to do that, because otherwise, as you know, if you are not safeguarding that, misappropriation and misuse can happen. And fostering intergenerational solidarity will definitely allow elders to actively participate in decision making and knowledge transmission processes. Now I want to do some reality checks. There are many demands from communities. Even when we came here, many of you approached even us asking, how can you help? We are ready to help you in many ways. But what is happening now? The people who are doing multifunctional documentation, you can see on this slide, there are people work on different aspects. We do some kind of questionnaire data, then picture prompt data, audio data, video data. There are storytelling, so many things. We are using, when we say questionnaires, we oftentimes use some standard word list with us, or you prepare a word list and use that elicit data. And most of the times these are not representing or depicting the culture you are interacting with. For example, I want to talk about Jainism or Jain Kasha from Kasi language. You will not find that listed under the garments women wear. So you have to use that only as a guide, and then you have to add culturally specific items. Audio data, video data, people do elicit words, basically translations. Tell me what's the word for hibiscus. Tell me what's the word for apple or pear or something like that. So most of the times you have the knowledge of your language or your culture or the dominant culture, and you're trying to elicit data. Of course you need them, I'm not saying don't do that, but it is important to tap the indigenous knowledge. And how am I going to do it, or how are we doing it from CIL and other places? I'll show you how we do. Of course people also do video annotations, video documentation, etc. So when it comes, there are two types of collaborative efforts happening. One is the community-led initiative. The community comes to us and they demand autonomy to lead, and they tell us what they want, how they want us to do something which will help us for intergenerational transmission. We have been doing that for some communities, and also they stress the importance of community-driven initiative because they have their unique needs and priorities, and they say, okay, this is what we want, can you help us to do it? And another is cultural education. Communities seek culturally relevant education. They are not interested in we preparing an orthography or developing some primers and telling them use it. They wanted to see that, okay, this is culturally relevant for us, and let us use this to educate our kids, and they demand such programs which respect and integrate their heritage. This is something very important. Recognition and support also one thing they want. Technology, of course, how to integrate technology to get the best out of the content you have, that is the data you have documented, and then you sit with the people and effectively use the technology to do some kind of inter-community collaboration. How much attention is paid to indigenous systems with a goal of intergenerational knowledge transmission? I must say that I'm sorry to say, and I must say that very less is done from the point of view of intergenerational knowledge transmission. Because most of the field workers just select 3 or 4 people. You must select people from 3 generations, at least 2 generations if possible, so that you can document as much as possible and you gather as much as knowledge as possible. That's not happening, and we do not do it. That is one thing people must concentrate. Most of the times people start with a word list. In the CIL, we have come out with a language documentation handbook. Here we have listed many words based on several semantic domains. So some of you, like my colleague Vicham is here, who was part of it in CIL during the initial stages of the preparation of this book. This is just a guide. It does not have elements which will cover all cultures in India. Therefore, I recommend use that as a guide and also prepare culturally specific word lists. That will help us to elicit words. And when we are eliciting words, we have to get a network of words. So what is this? This is just a necklace for me, but you may have a name. And what is this? This is a guide. So you are having different layers of meaning to it. It's a necklace. So what is that? It's an ornament. And what's an ornament? What is that? So you have a hierarchy of relations. With one item or one object, I'll be able to get 10 words. There are beats, there are strings in it, quite a number of things. So you have to always elicit like that and just not go by what is the word for X and what is the word for Y. And suppose somebody gives me coffee and they ask me, do you want it hot or cold or like Clemshini in Kasi? So Clemshini, yes, Kasa, Clemshini. So then we say, okay, so you have, how do you want it? Cold. Then immediately I ask, okay, I want hot coffee, but what's the word for cold coffee? So that's how we elicit and make a network of words. So picture prompts are very important because a picture speaks more than 1,000 words, right? So these are some of the pictures we clicked. Of course, one of them is familiar to you. I just clicked it in Kohima 2 days back. The door, you can see that. So the other picture is a ritual practice of Athan community. So if you see this picture, you know nothing about it. You must know what are these elements because you have to see what are these and what do they signify. There's a lot of knowledge embedded here. And what are they doing here in this Athan community? So you need to, you can click as many, you can make a picture album, go to a village, spend 7 days and make beautiful pictures of the natural surroundings there. Now you have digital albums, have it on your laptop and then talk about that with the people and elicit as much knowledge as possible. It's not possible going and doing it without that because, and randomly also you can click, of course, when you come across new pictures and new things around you. That's how we learn. Curiosity is the mother of invention, right? So that way we need to be curious about everything around us. Here are some more pictures of Athan community. So you can see 3 men enjoying their rice beer and how happy they are, and that they're probably sitting at the end of the day and having some conversation. There are a lot of objects in this picture, and you can talk about how do they make the rice beer, or what are they doing, what is that part, and what kind of things they do. Likewise, other picture about the tree house, and you have jorpy, a fishing material, and men at work, how do they work, what kind of knowledge sharing takes place here. More pictures, these are also from Meghalaya. Meghalaya, unlike the rest of Northeast India, uses baskets for various purposes. One of them is shown here as for storing the vessels that are clean. You also use baskets for carrying child or carrying vegetables, many more things. And also you can see a man at work. So in a natural setting, what is he doing and different actions, and is this his occupation or is it he doing for a living, and what was his traditional occupation. You can start up a story with one picture and learn more. Here's another interesting picture. This is from Lingam community. Lingam is one of the Kasian languages spoken in Meghalaya in West Khasi Hills. This picture where you see wood is stored, I think this is a common picture all over Northeast India. But the other one is interesting from a different perspective. This is how people are classifying or counting things when you in a market, in a local market. There are different routes here. Like it's just, you cannot say it's a heap of ginger or what. In English, there's no special term for this, measure terms. So in their languages, how do they do it and what are these? You can talk about it. And here are the most beautiful brooms, I must say, from this region. Whenever I go to Meghalaya, I pick one or two of these brooms with me because they are the best ones I have ever seen. So there is a community which does that, and of course you find them in many places in Meghalaya. And here's a picture I clicked again in, I think it was in that village where your Hornbill festival takes place. So where we went, the Kisama village. So interesting to see what is hung here in front of the door, and each of them will have their own significance. Why is it hung like that? Why is there is a skull of an ape there? What does it signify? So many things to ask and pass on that knowledge, not just to ask, pass on that knowledge to the next generation. And also, we can also undertake dialect surveys, because here in many rituals, communities, this is a community, Lamkang community from Manipur. Here, after they completed a dance ritual, they just gave us a post. This picture was clicked by my colleague in CIL. Here, through some kind of language surveys, you will be able to elicit words and know more about the culture, about their activities, archaic words, and words which are not generally used in their day-to-day life, but they are culturally important. It is very, very important because it's not possible to find them when you are doing data elicitation with a word list. Active elicitation is another technique we must do, because we will ask people to sit in a group, maybe over a bonfire or something, and maybe enjoy their hospitality or have a drink with them or eat with them. And then during that time, we can have spontaneous recall vocabulary. Just open up some conversations and ask them, can you tell me the names of the plants you grow in your garden? Instead of asking what's the name for paddy or what's the name for hibiscus, you can ask them, or how to make a particular dish. It's not just about what they know, you can also ask about different types of laughters or other things. So many ways. How do you, like their whistling sounds you saw, different ways of naming, like that, do you have different ways of laughter, etc. Elicitation from media resources is also very important, because media can function at various levels. That is why many of our friends, especially Hezekiel, he's every time emphasizing on the creation of community radio stations, and maybe in future they also want to do television shows. This is from UNESCO New Delhi. They have some proposals to create community radio stations, and I'm going to be involved in it in Shillong. So maybe after Shillong is going to be the starting point for that, and maybe it will come to other parts of Northeast India very soon. I think it's going to be in the first week of December. The dates are not yet fixed. So because we feel like this is mainly for awareness. In many parts of the world during COVID times, community radios played a vital role. So Hesigil and his team want to do that for Northeast India. Because this media will certainly provide opportunities for the voices unheard, because there are many voices that are unheard in the Northeast. That way radio will have some place for the people to have a say in the language they speak and understand, and also we can create a lot of digital language resources. Like I said before, this will lead to language empowerment, which in turn will lead to people empowerment. Of course, the more the merrier. I can go on, but I'm going to cut short now and try to come to my last part of the talk. Here we are saying that we have to make or document and create language and cultural resources for many people. My first priority is for community. Then comes academic purpose and other, like you can have community alone also uses. There are many uses of these resources, because we are documenting for what? To preserve someone's language or culture which is dear and near to them. So it's better we keep it near to them and for them. That's why again and again wherever I speak I say, what are we giving back to the communities? We must give back to the communities, even if it takes 2 years, 3 years to do some piece of work. We have to create indigenous knowledge corpus. This is important in the era of artificial intelligence, because which is not here in Northeast India, so that we all have access to a lot of indigenous materials. I'm just going to skip all these things, and of course we have to build lot of talking dictionaries, develop MOOCs, make films and television programs, etc. Traditional practices like this is again from Lingam community, where you can see people how they cook in bamboo cylinders. The bamboo was cut right in front of my eyes. We clicked this picture. We fished in a pond, and then that fish was cleaned and put here and they were cooking. So these practices we have documented, and also many knowledge of natural environment. A beautiful picture from Maulindong. The 3 ladies are cleaning the already clean place. So here of course from Nagaland, because I was impressed with Sentila's house to see many. I have clicked many pictures from your house. I'm going to use some of them with your permission in my slides. So many bamboo and other crafts, as you can see, for manufacturing a variety of household objects. Music and dance is part of the culture here. There are several challenges for documenting this. There are many solutions, of course, we need to address them. But one of the community-driven initiative, I must say, is the Listener Festival. This is one solution, of course, because there are many challenges, and I feel like such festivals are platforms for not just showcasing the richness of this region, but also to take it forward. Digital preservation and empowering indigenous youth. We are not touching upon ethnobotany, which is another important thing to do. So just to conclude my talk, I must emphasize what everyone is telling. I'm not the first person to say this. Document as much as possible. Oral, written, digital, whatever, wherever you can lay your hands on, and describe them for community, for academic purposes and for other purposes. Let us help the communities to revitalize the languages that are dormant. And of course, technology empowerment is very, very important. I just wanted to end by saying here, like when we say intergenerational transmission, this involves a lot of planning. We have to do family language planning in order to take our languages down to the next generation. It will certainly open many doors, and let us not forget, in the era of digital era, we have a lot of kids here I'm already seeing who are tech savvy. Maybe you can construct websites for the linguistic families and subfamilies of the region and facilitate the upload of multimedia information linguistically or culturally or any other ethnic information which can be used by a lot of people in the community. For lack of some technological glitch here, I couldn't play the beautiful song here. I just wanted to end my talk by playing one clip of the song sung by our beautiful colleagues here. Thanks for your attention, and I now invite my discussants to share their views.
Very insightful and engaging talk. And a lot has been already spoken by our honored guest here today. And I am your next door neighbor. I'm from Karbi Anglong. My name is D.S. Teron. And I was excited to come here because we are so close, yet we are so far. We never exchange ideas. I shouldn't blame our Naga friends here because ever since the beginning of the Highland Institute in Kohima, I had been a part of the organization, and almost for 6 or 7 continuous years, I had always been invited to speak in sessions like this, and maybe there has been a gap for about 3 years now. So again, I'm very thankful to Dr. Santila for so kindly having extended the invitation to me. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, now the most crucial part. Intergenerational knowledge transfer. What kind of knowledge? It's basically we are talking about oral knowledge. And I'll be talking from my experience in my own tribe, Karbi. I don't know how many of you are aware that we are no longer called Mikir, and then I think most of the Nagas, they know us by Mikiri. And I think there's a story behind this name, why Nagas prefer to call us Mikiri. Because it has completely a different kind of very, very negative connotation. In Assamese history, there are books written on us, and the connotation is very, very negative. So I wouldn't like to dwell on that. It was a history written some 100 years ago, so I'm not pointing out somebody for having written such a very negative thing relating to Mikir. So when we talk about orality, I think in spite of so much of neglect, in spite of so much of loss that we have faced as a tribe, the Karbi orality still exists. And in 2017, we documented a song which we call the Kacharhe Alun. Today when we were scanning the bookstores, I found one book, Passing On, something like that. Okay, a book which was produced by the Highland Institute, and then I wrote an article about Kacharhe Alun, which is oral funerary epic. So when we talk about epic, a very general understanding is this orality has to be very, very long. Then there used to be our friend in Kohima Institute by the name Dr. Michael Hennis. He's an American. He married a Naga lady. I think some of you might have met him or know him. Now he is in Norway, in Tromsø. We are in contact. So we decided to document the this Kachar Helun, because Kachar Helun is sung over 30 hours non-stop. Can you imagine 30 hours non-stop? And a person who is performing has never gone to school, doesn't know anything about literacy. So we as insiders, we never were quite excited why somebody has to be so important, who can sing from their memory, 30 hours non-stop and sometimes for days. So now, at the end of the day, when we talk about orality and then how all tribals in Northeast India particularly have been losing so much of their oral tradition, their oral culture, it comes to us as a kind of a shocking kind of thing. It shocks how a song is sung 30 hours non-stop. I think no such instance exists anywhere in Northeast India. I don't know if there is any. I'll be very glad to actually go and see the performance myself, because I think we are only the last few people who still have this tradition. And then our young hostess, she was asking us to have create memory. So memory plays a very important part in in documenting, in perpetuating our oral tradition. And 100 years ago, the only important ethnographic work that was done by the colonial authors is called the Mikirs, that was written in 1908. And the author, he was very specific, calling the Karbis as a race with a very short memory. A race with short memory. But I find it strange, he should have still lived today to see this oral singer performing this Kachari alone for 30 hours non-stop, and then you call us a race with short memory. So there must be something wrong. Their understanding of how memory cannot be race-specific, memory cannot be region-specific, memory cannot be, tribe-specific or individual-specific. Memory is quite a very interesting phenomena of human faculty, and then you cannot just somebody call a person with short memory. So memory plays a very important part, and then I should tell you that I'm still proud to be part of that legacy. But this author, Edward Steck and Charles Lell, the two authors who wrote this Mikir, also mentioned something very important. They say that they don't have any special organization or person set aside to keep those memories intact. So old men, they sing stories, old men, old women, they tell folk tales. And this is by way of acknowledging the fact that the Karbis had stories, the Karbis had so many interesting folk tales to tell. But the problem, the issue that was highlighted by the colonial authors should still be acknowledged as correct. Because we have failed to hold on to the kind of huge repertoire of oral treasure because of lack of documentation. Because we are still a very, very kind of orally dependent culture. Our culture is still very, very, very much oral. So I have with me today three young people. One is Mr. Lekhe. He is a young advocate, and he is also a tiger priest. So he performs tribal rituals, and these rituals have to be performed every year. And then we can ask him today, does he have any text, a written text, to communicate with the tribal spirits? No, there is no any text. Like that, he is also a priest, he is also a ritual expert. So he performs a healing ritual which also has, as part of the healing practices, he needs to perform the story of how the Karbi ancestors saw the creation of the earth. This creation narrative has to be performed every now and then. But does he have a text? He doesn't have a text. So every day we are, retelling the stories of the creation of the earth. And then we also sing about how the Karbi parents migrated from somewhere, from the navel of the earth, and then how these people, they came down, meeting diverse people, diverse cultures, and then their experiences. All these things are still being narrated. Our Madam Papu Swami was talking about the griot. The griot are storytellers in West Africa. So we have storytellers everywhere, but the problem with us is that we have never documented them. And then in Naga context, it will be certainly different. The colonialism came, and we all had our shares of our interactions with colonialism. And there are many Naga scholars who are critical about how Christianity came and how Christianity also did harm to the preservation and promotion and perpetuation of Naga culture. We also have similar stories, but we were among the first people to have come in contact with the American Baptist Mission. They came. Our first Karbi to have been baptized was in 1863. So he was the first, and then yeah. Thank you so much for reminding, because of the Karbi are literate. But in what sense what sense do we make out of it? It's only people who can read English alphabet or Assamese alphabet or maybe Hindi alphabet, but not as literate as we would wish them to be able to document the songs, document the stories, folk tales, and the oral treasures. So we have, in Karbi context, I think you must have heard about the Karbi Youth Festival. So this is celebrating 50 years in January. So this is also, I think, the oldest ethnic youth festival in the region, and the largest in terms of the kind of crowd that it draws every year. And this is the only organization in Karbi standard that this festival has been continuing non-stop without ever having
Thank you for the time. My name is Dr. Nisa. I'm from Northeast Christian University, Dimapur. I'm a faculty of the English program there. I think your topic, Dr. Oma, is quite a needed topic at the moment. I think all of us, who speaks our own native language, I think we are very aware that our language is slowly dying, but at the same time, we do not take the responsibility to preserve it as well. So I was very much happy with your topic. I wrote so much down for my own, knowledge. I've written so much down. For the lack of time, I just want to ask one question based on what you have discussed. I'm very intrigued with the responsibility of families or parents to pass down the knowledge. So I'm mostly looking at specifically the families here. I've written it down. As in today's society, we have bilingual families and multilingual families. That's our reality now. So, do you think these families, they selectively forego either their first or second language to balance their own preference with the welfare of their children?
In my opinion, when there are bilingual parents, it's the responsibility of both of them to pass down the knowledge of, not only the knowledge but the language of theirs to the children. Because we see in many families, sometimes the child picks up the father's language and is more fluent in the father's language than the mother's. Or in some cases, we see the reverse. But it depends on how much time, how much valuable time the parent can spend with the child, and also instill a sense of pride for the mother tongue. Only then it can be practiced. It should be practiced at home. Otherwise, the child will end up. In some cases, we also see the child is neither fluent in the mother's language nor in the father's language, and completely shifts to the dominant language of the society into which he or she is born. So that is why when we say intergenerational transmission, for monolingual families it's much easier, but for bilingual or multilingual families, if you have grandparents from different mother tongues, it becomes more and more complex. But at different levels, this family language planning should take place. We should see that it is transmitted to the children.
And just one more question, in extension to what you have just said. So, how much responsibility rests on the parents to develop their own language skills as well as understand their own culture in order to impart to their kids?
This is indeed a difficult question to answer, because it's something which cannot be measured. It's something like it is inbuilt in you. Give as much as you know to your child, as much as you know, and you also have to learn as a parent to see. Suppose some parents themselves do not have enough knowledge, then that is why we are emphasizing this intergenerational knowledge transmission. That means they did not have complete control over what they know. So the more they learn, the more they can give. And it's important because they are the custodians of the language, the keepers of their wisdom. So I think it's something every day a parent also should be learning and giving it back to the children, who also have a larger responsibility to play in this digital world. You're welcome. Any questions from the, yes, Yashwanta?
Yes, this is a question. I think you had a comment.
Yeah.
Giving me a chance, and this is not really the question. I want to give the comment on Umar's topic. That our topic is very important, and we should love our mother tongue, and we are the people we should generate, or we have to give the intergenerational solidarity and knowledge transmission. We should do that, and in this also very simple the thing is that we are always time singing songs of the Baba, Black Sheep, Jack and the Jill like this, then London Bridge fall down. Like instead of that, we can do our own. Say like for example, I just came yesterday from that Nagaland University. Like you have the folk song like Ho Alho Selo, Alho Je Selo, Hale Lu Zaha Selo, Ho Ye Ho, like this. Then in Sumi also, then Rota also, then Chak also, then Sang also, like this. We should try our children to give our folk song instead of the giving of the Baba Black Sheep. Only this much I want to say, that this will generate our knowledge transmission. Thank you. Sorry.
Please give me that mic.
I don't know. He wants to add to it. Oh, he's leaving. Here, someone wants to. Hi.
मैं
कल भी सारे दिन सेमिनार में बैठा था और आज भी मैं सेमिनार में बैठा हूँ और आज के लेक्चर में लैंग्वेज इज समथिंग लाइक ए vehicle of the culture. If language goes, culture slowly and gradually die out. लेकिन आप कल भी और आज भी एक शब्द भी न तो मदर टंग को यूज किया, न तो असमीज स्पीकर असमीज को यूज किया, न नागा स्पीकर अपने लैंग्वेज को यूज किया. We are competing how fluently we can speak English. तो ये जो सेमिनार है, लाखों रुपए खर्च करके हम जो कर रहे हैं, what message we are giving to listeners through media or by attending this? आपने तो एक शब्द ना हिंदी में बोला, ना अपने मदर टंग में बोला. आप you are speaking fluently English, लेकिन आप अपने मदर टंग का भी तो एक शब्द भी नहीं बोला. तो what matters? You are delivering the importance of language in preserving the culture, but you are not giving that message.
Can anyone translate? Because I don't think any of us understands Hindi. I don't understand Hindi. Who knows Hindi? Yeah, Hindi. Sanjeev, please come.
Yeah, he's asking
why are you not using your own?
Why are we not using languages of this region, Hindi or mother tongue, mainly to see.
Okay. Why don't you answer the question? Thank you.
I don't think this question was over.
His question was done. So the question, the reason being we are, how do I say, like we have people from different language backgrounds here, and people.
Can I answer that question?
Yes, please. I appreciate it.
Today, I appreciate what he says, and this is why the listener is there, right? But you must understand that there is no common language in the Northeast. There are 420 dialects, and in every community, even among the Nagas of Nagaland, we communicate with each other by a local patwa called Nagamis. So, when we have speakers who come from Tamil Nadu, we have speakers who are coming from, from Manipur, the language that we are communicating is English. And that's why I quite understand why you have questioned as to why listener is not spoken in one's own language. If you've been here, I think in yesterday's we had some sessions in English, but today you will get to hear local languages being spoken by the presenters.
It endangered, and how do you make it into living? What is the criteria that is being adopted? And are we using the 2011 census data for determining the extent of endangerment?
Yes, this is one question for which we can throw 3 or 4 more conferences to answer, because this is one thing which even Jivan and I had been deliberating upon in Mysore. Are the 9 factors laid out by UNESCO 2003, which led to the development of the Linguistic Atlas 2009 and 10 valid enough? We had long debates, of course, as you can recall. It's very difficult to see what works for one country may not work for another is something what people are coming out with. Nevertheless, we need to start somewhere, right? Because that is why we are talking about it. And intergenerational transmission is one of the factors. There are other factors. Numerical strength, in some countries they take that as one of the criterion to say if there are less number of speakers, there is more threat for a language, because we see that it may disappear any moment. But I wouldn't say just numerical strength, because to give you the example of Ruga again, there is an entire village of Rugapara. Many thousands of people are there. It's not the people, it's the
number of people who use the language matters, not the numerical strength of a particular community. The census of India will give us not the users of the language, but the speakers who belong to a particular community. So there are some such differences which need to be sorted out, but many languages are dying. Let us discuss more about this over a cup of coffee or lunch, because Attila has come to the stage to thank us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uma and Dr. Dumoy. Thank you.